What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is Dirty John, um, season 1, episode 5. I guess it's season 1. It's a limited series, so I guess it's season 1. But episode 5. And so, in this episode, we learn a little bit more about John's history, maybe explaining, not excusing, but explaining somewhat why he is the way he is and the type of person that he became. Um, we see at the beginning of the episode, John is coming. It's another flashback. So they flashback to John coming to visit his father's in the hospital. His sister's there. He comes off the plane. You can see that him and his sister have a really good relationship. You know, he's feeding her the bullshit about his wife being a cheater and how horrible his wife is. And she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." You know, da 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 da. So he says, you know, she gets him caught up on what's going on with the father. You know, he's just laying there, and the doctor saying that, you know, that he's good, everything's good right now, but, you know, we're just working through blah blah blah. He tells her, well, go ahead and go get something to eat. I'm here now. You go ahead and get something to eat. I can sit here with Dad. She was like, are you sure? You know, he's like, no, you go ahead. Honey, and the time it took her to go get a salad and come back, John done killed their daddy. Because the daddy went from being fine to going into cardiac arrest and dying, right? And the sister is like, oh my God, like what happened? Like I just left for like 15 minutes. But then we flash back even further and we see that when he was a kid, his father was a hustler. And I mean, like, they showed a scene where father had John eating glass at a restaurant so they could get some money. So, oh my God, my son had glass in his food, so he didn't chewed up the glass. Then we see another scene where I guess he ran a bar or something, and him and the sister was supposed to be cleaning up the ashtrays. You know, back in the day when people used to be able to smoke everywhere, and John ain't doing no work. Just the daughter's doing the work, and the sister, excuse me, and he ends up telling. I mean, she ends up telling their dad, you know, John didn't do any work. You know, they're working for their allowance, so he gives her $20. He gives John $20. She said, well, why does he get $20? She said, as a matter of fact, give me that $20 back. You take 10, John gets 20. Because you're a tattletale. So it just goes to show you that mentality that the father had. He was like, you know, so she did all the work while you sat there and didn't do nothing. Okay, that was smart on your part. You know, if she gonna do all the work, oh well, that's on you. Then we see another scene where John jumps in front of a car and breaks his leg. And the sister tells John, by this time John might have been a teenager, you know. And she tells him, she said, what you gonna do next time? You gonna die for him? She said, Dad's going to always need more money. He's going to always need something. You can't always do this for him. Like, this is crazy. Like, you broke your leg on purpose. You could have died. You jumped in front of a damn car. And I think it started off as hero worship. And then it ended up him realizing who his father really was. And you kind of see him and the sister sort of teaming up on the father, right? So that sort of gives you some insight on why he killed him. I'm not excusing it. And it also gives you some insight on him being a hustler. You know, that's how he was raised. Like, you know, you need some money. Let's run a scheme. Let's run something. Let's run a little fraud. The podcast goes a little deeper into that. They kind of hint around that his father might have been, you know, he bragged that his family was in the mob, but maybe his father was like a lower, not no shot caller or anything like that, but that his father really was a hustler, and that's what he did. He just ran schemes on people. So fast forward to present day. John wants to get clean. He gives her this song and dance about how he really wants to make things work, but he has to get clean. He can't keep, you know, living like this where he's taking all these pills and blah, blah, blah. And so they go to the doctor, and they go to a doctor, and the doctor says, well, you know, he's in relatively good health. If he wants to go cold turkey, you know, he doesn't necessarily have to go into a facility. So they decided they're going to, at the hotel room, he's going to go through a detox. He's just going to go cold turkey, and she's going to be there to help him work through it. And the doctor gets her alone, and the doctor says, look, I've seen this look before. I've seen women like you come through here, and, you know, they have that spaced out, far away look. He said, understand something. He can do this by himself. He doesn't need you. He'll be okay. You don't have to do this. It's not a testament of your love, you know. And I just thought it was interesting that the doctor sort of had some sort of insight on this whole situation. You know what I mean? So, um, he goes through the detox. He goes cold turkey. In the meantime, Deborah to move back into her penthouse. So her sister, I mean, her daughter is like, the smart ass one, is like, I thought you were hiding out. What you moving back into the penthouse for? And she said, well, you know how well, I just wanted to move back, so that's what I did. I just wanted to move back, and I just can't live my life in fear. The whole time because she said, and the daughter even asked her, are you seeing him again? She said, no, no, why would you? No, no. She said, okay. And her daughter ain't stupid. She said, okay. Then the other daughter, the one that she got into it with that lived in Las Vegas, her and the boyfriend them broke up and she's moving back home. And she's a very needy child, right? She wants her mother to stay with her and hold her and keep her up and talk to her, and she and I get it, she breaking up with her boyfriend, but it went beyond that. It was a little creepy. But she trying to sneak out to go see John, and the daughter's at the house being nosy. So she comes in one night, and the daughter's like, well, where have you been? Where were you? And they get to talking, and she tells her that, she's with John, and she's like, why are you still seeing him? She said, because he doesn't have anybody else. I'm the only person. He doesn't have anyone with me. You notice the daughter called the other daughter, right? All right, we'll get back to that. So we flash back again. John had gone to jail. Something happened. He had gone to jail. He was getting out of jail. His sister, who'd always been there for him, picks him up from jail. She said, look, put that behind you. It is what it is. What's done is done. But I got you. His sister owns a RV park, and she set it up, or she set it up that he can be the manager of the park, and he gets a trailer. But you can see off the break that he is not happy with that. Like, he feels like that whole situation is beneath him. Now, most people who are just getting out of jail would be happy to get a place to live and a job, and he basically was living there rent free, because when you are a property manager, you don't usually pay. If you do pay something, you don't pay full rent. And an RV, I mean, it looked clean. It wasn't like a dirty old rundown. It was a nice little thing. But you could tell he wasn't happy. You could tell he was in his feelings a little bit, like he was expecting something else, expecting a little something more. But the sister hooked him up, and she was like, look, it's time to start over, get a fresh start. This would be a good place for you to get started. And she wasn't even saying, like, this is what you're going to do for the next 20 years. She was like, look, this will help you get back on your feet. Like, you been out there, you were in jail, you ain't have shit. This help you get back on your feet, But you could tell he don't like it. So, I guess he had been. It doesn't really give us a definite timetable, but you could tell that he had been doing that for a while, maybe a year. I don't know if it was even that long. She gets a phone call from a friend of hers who is an attorney. He said, look, I need to talk to you about your brother. She was like, oh shit. Like, you could tell she kind of was like, oh shit. He tells her, he said, look, John. Oh, she gave him a truck. She gave him a car. I'm like, dude, she hooked you up. Make a long story short, John got into a car accident with the truck. He totaled the car. Now, the lawyer believes that he did it on purpose. The lawyer believes that John was waiting outside of a bar, waited for a drunk driver, somebody who came out the bar who shouldn't have been driving, to get behind the wheel of a car, and then staged an accident. So, of course, the woman's going to pay up, because she don't want, this was in like the 80s, or the no, it wasn't that far back. Yeah, I guess it was like maybe the 80s. So, the lawyer, he hired the lawyer to represent him, and the lawyer got him a nice settlement. She said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know any of this. He said, oh, no, this ain't the problem. He said that part wasn't the issue. He said the issue is now John has filed paperwork saying that he has a problem with my representation, so that he doesn't have to pay me. He said, now that's the problem. Then come to find out, John done went down and got the deed of the trailer put in his name. He done went down and told the bank that he owned half of the trailer park. I mean, he done tried to infiltrate, and the sister didn't know none of this. Now, I'm not all on the ins and outs of the legals or whatever, but the sister didn't know none of this, so she went and confronted him. Honey, he let them things show. You hear me? Told her, You throw me these scraps, and I've always been the smarter one, and you ain't shit. Well, he didn't say that, but basically, I'm the smart one, and you ain't this, and you ain't that, and oh my goodness, they got into it real bad, and and this was the first time I think she saw it. She saw it. She saw that sinister. She probably believed all along that he was lying to her, or that he was telling her half truths and stuff like that. But nobody wants to believe that their brother is a horrible, horrible person. But you saw it in her face that she saw it that moment, like, oh shit. And she finally she told him, she said, "You be out this trailer park. She said, you move out this trailer, or I'm bringing the marshal down here." Like, she put him out, whatever. She said, "You got, be out by tomorrow," whatever. And when she walked out the trailer, you saw her flash back to their father dying. And she made the connection at that moment, which she probably had already been sort of thinking it, but she finally made that final connection, like, huh, he killed daddy. So, all right, flashback to present day. The daughter, the one that broke up with her boyfriend, she moved out. She got herself her own place and everything. And she went and told the other daughter that mama is seeing John again. And of course, the daughter is pissed off about it. And she's telling her, this ain't going to end well. This ain't no good. Now, the younger daughter is sort of defending her mom. The younger daughter is like, everybody, should be given a second chance. Everybody should be given an opportunity to redeem themselves. But Ronnie ain't having it. Ronnie was like, you and mama got some big hearts, but I don't. And he ain't going to change. So we see where the family's having brunch, but they didn't invite Deborah. The sisters, Trey, the grandma, but they didn't invite Deborah, the kids and stuff. So Deborah was like, oh, nobody invited me. She was like, did you tell them? And she said, well, yeah, I did, And she was like, okay, all right. So she said, well, maybe this would be a good time for us to talk and just clear the air. So she shows up, honey. She shows up with donuts. Like, that's going to get her in. And the daughter ain't even speaking to her. And Trey says, look, this probably ain't a good idea for you to be here. And she said, but, I love y'all. Like, he said, you're still with him. You're still dealing with him. And I don't want him around my kids. I don't want him anywhere where he can get near my children, my family. I just don't think it's a good idea. And he goes on to tell her, and maybe it's just not a good idea if you come around either. And he puts her out. I mean, he politely puts her out, but he puts her out. And you see her later on that night crying to John. She's upset. She's crying. She's like, I shouldn't have to choose between my family or you. Like, it's not fair. You weren't. And basically her thing is, I'm not bringing them around. I'm not bringing you around them. They should be able to respect my decision, and it shouldn't be an issue. So we flash back to another scene where John is talking to his father. And his father says, when people do you wrong, you don't come at them. You attack the family. And so we see where Ronnie ends up losing her job because somebody keeps calling to her job, making threats and accusations. And, Ronnie works for a medical practice, and people are starting to leave bad comments about the medical practice. And her boss tells her, he says, look, I really like you. You've done a great job here. Because we saw earlier in the episode where he's raving about Ronnie. He said, but I can't sacrifice the business. He said, if you find out who this is and you find out what the problem is, you can come back. He said, but in the meantime, we're going to have to let you go. So Ronnie ends up losing her job, So you see where you see his strategy. You see how he's maneuvering, right? And, but you see Ronnie sees it too. I don't know what Ronnie going to do, honey. Ronnie don't play these games with him. So Ronnie loses her job. And then we see where they're back in the bed, because they all bunned up, they all lovey-dovey again or whatever. And she's laying there, and she starts thinking. And something sort of hits her. And she sees blood coming from between his toes, right? And she's like, oh, damn. She tears the house up. She's searching, searching, searching. She finally finds it. He's back on drugs, which makes me wonder: did he ever really sincerely get off drugs, or was that a ploy to bring her back in? Like, did he go through withdrawals and go through all of that just to gain her trust? But if you see his pattern, he probably did. Anyway, y'all, that's that episode. It's another one on right now, so I'm gonna go on and watch it and drop it. I'm trying to get caught up on all my videos for y'all. Y'all, let me know what y'all think in them comments. Peace.